Most people who try to sell on eBay never actually make real money. And it's not because eBay doesn't work, but it's because they start completely wrong. Well, my name is LeeMeier, and I've made over 100,000 net profit selling used clothes. And now I help everyday people get started and make more money and faster sales in a way that actually fits into their schedule. And what I'm doing is in this video, I'm breaking down everything that you need to know to start selling on eBay the right way, from finding items to pricing them, to writing your listings in a way that will stand out and get found, to shipping and managing sales and staying consistent long enough to see real results. Because the truth is, it's not that eBay is complicated, it's that most people start the wrong way. They jump in, they buy random things, and they get overwhelmed and they quit before ever seeing what's possible. By the end of the video, you'll know exactly what to start selling without wasting money, without second guessing yourself, and without that "why doesn't this work for me" mindset that holds most people back. Now, quick note before we dive in. If you're watching this and you're feeling like, okay, there's a lot of steps here, I got you. What I did is I put together a free reseller checklist. This is going to walk you through the exact steps. So instead of trying to keep notes or rewatch everything later, you can follow it step by step as you go. It's completely free and it's linked below. You can either grab it now or at the end once you've seen how this process actually works. Now, before we get into the how, let's zoom out for a second, because this mindset piece matters way more than most people think. And a lot of people believe that they can't do this. They think that it's not going to work for them because they don't have a lot of money to get started. They don't have a big garage full of inventory or money to go get inventory. They don't have hours to be able to dedicate every day. And you don't need any of that. What drew me to this business model is it's built for real life. You can start right where you are with what you have. We'll get into that here in a second, but you can fit it into your schedule in the evenings after work, or on the weekends, or during nap time like myself as a mom of four, even on your phone in bed. You don't need to quit your job, but you certainly might be able to, like a couple of the people that I've been able to help along the way. What you really need right now is a simple system, and that's what we're gonna build here. And what I want you to believe right up front is this, is that you can start small, you can learn this process, anybody can learn it, and you can start to build momentum. Every seller that you see crushing it right now, they started somewhere tiny. Do not despise small beginnings. Now let's go ahead and kick it off with where to find items. If you get this part wrong, nothing else is gonna matter. Most of the battle is won in the items that you're listing. And this is really the step that separates the people who make money from the ones who give up after a month or two and end up frustrated and thinking it doesn't work for them. And what I want you to do if you're just getting started is to start simple. The very first place for items is to look in your own house. I can almost bet you that there's 5 to 10 things that you don't use anymore in your own house that are gonna be valuable online, whether it's clothes or shoes or accessories or electronics. You'd be shocked at what people are buying. And these are the types of items that make really great first listings, your first sales, and give you that little bit of confidence to realize that this can be something a whole lot more. And when you make that first sale on something that was just sitting in your closet, maybe collecting dust, it clicks and you suddenly realize, wow, this works. Where can I go from here? And from here, you can really start exploring. Local thrift stores can be a good place to pick up items. You're gonna wanna time your visits for when they do their discounts. Most thrift stores will have certain discount days, and that's when it's gonna be a good time to pick up items that have a little bit more of a profit margin to them. With yard sales and garage sales, early mornings can be gold. The saying, early birds get the worm, is true here. You're going to want to bring cash with you and then be comfortable negotiating prices, especially if you're buying multiple items. You usually have a little bit more negotiating power. My personal favorite to source from are the Goodwill outlets, aka bins. And this is where you're sorting through inventory and you're paying by the pound. This is the perfect place to pick up cheap inventory. And then there's places like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Ross, basically discount stores. And you're gonna look for clearance items that have a high retail value. Online sourcing can also be another really good option. For example, with Facebook Marketplace, you can go in and set up alerts for items that you're after. There's also options for liquidation or wholesale sites to get inventory in bulk, but that usually requires a little bit more money up front. Another really good way to get started with inventory that you don't necessarily have to pay for up front is actually with consignment, whether it's for friends or family, and you're taking a portion of that sale for doing the work of getting that item listed. And that's been another favorite way for me to be able to be a little bit more flexible and not have to be out of the house so much with 4 kids. Now, one of the first things I found when I went outsourcing was a pair of Levi's jeans. They were not even vintage. They were just kind of normal current style of jeans. They sold for about 30 bucks. And that's when I realized the potential that is here to be able to do this over and over again. And once you see a sale come in like that, you stop second guessing and you start thinking about everything a little bit differently. But maybe you're thinking, hey, my thrift stores, they're way overpriced. They're way too expensive. I never find stuff where there's profit margin. And I get it. I used to believe that too. And here's what I learned is it's not about finding the cheapest item. It's about finding the right items and finding the items that thrift stores don't recognize. I'm gonna give you a couple of examples of this. Now, this is a pair of shoes. It's not any sort of brand you would recognize. And after learning thousands of brands, I didn't recognize them either. But the thing that jumped out to me was the quality of the construction, the materials, as well as the country that they're made in. They're actually made in Portugal. Those clues are what told me that there was a really good chance that this was a more valuable item. Now, thrift stores, they're gonna mark up the brands that they know. If we're talking shoes, they're gonna mark up Nikes, they're gonna mark up Hoka's, but a brand that they don't recognize, these are the types of items that don't get marked up. And so when I comped this out, these are actually coming in at around 50 bucks. So that made the investment of about 5 bucks for these worth it to me. Another thing that thrift stores don't do is price bigger items for more money. And online, most bigger sizes, whether they're plus size or men's big and tall, those bigger sizes actually sell for more money. And so something like this that is just huge, I don't even know the size of this thing. It's a 52D. This is gonna sell for more money than just an average size. By the way, the intimates section and the plus size section are some of my favorite sections to hit up in retail thrift stores. Another thing that retail thrift stores often don't mark up for is the aesthetic or the look of the item. So for example, this is a cardigan sweater with animal print, and I'll be listing this with a keyword called mob wife. That's really popular right now, and people are paying extra money just for this look. And it's when you can understand these different nuances of patterns and fabrics and styles and lesser known brands being able to recognize quality. That's when you're gonna beat the thrift stores and be able to beat other people who are looking to do this too. Now, when I first started, I didn't have any fancy setup or really even any money to get started. I literally started with that $7 and a single trip to the thrift store that got me just a couple of items. But that $7 turned into 40, and then it turned into 100, and it just kept compounding. You don't need to make a lot of money per item. What you need to do is just keep the cycle going, and you're gonna see your income start to grow naturally. Now, what actually sells? This was another huge mindset shift for me, is realizing that I didn't need to memorize what sells or even have on hand a list of brands. Now, a lot of beginners think that success is from knowing fashion labels, but what consistently sells are styles and keywords like that mob wife keyword that I mentioned, as well as certain types of items. Buyers are searching for the look and the feel of the item, not just the tag. For example, with this dress, it is an Eileen Fisher, but I could just list it as women's dress, sleeveless, or I could use words like midi length, racer back, linen, vacation, relaxed. It's the same item, but it's a totally different story, a totally different reach, and you're gonna get totally different results with that. One item's gonna just sit and not probably sell. The other item's gonna get more views and be able to bring in a sale at a higher price. Another way to explain this is if you say go and search for women's sweater on eBay, you're gonna see a ton of results. But once you start narrowing in to say chunky knit oversized boho sweater, you're gonna have a lot less results. As a seller, that means less competition and getting in front of the people who are looking for that exact item. And that's really the power of understanding how buyers think. Now, once you've found the potential items that you're thinking about listing, how do you know what's actually worth flipping? Well, it's super simple. You're gonna go to the eBay app and you're gonna look up that particular item. It doesn't have to be exact, but if you've got the brand and maybe the item type that it is, and then you're gonna look and see how many items are listed and are they actually selling? If they're selling, what are the prices that they're selling for? If you're not seeing a lot of items sell, then that's when you're gonna pass on the item. Or if you're not seeing the sale prices high enough, that's also another easy no. Now, what a lot of beginners do is they find something that looks fancy or that is maybe a brand that they think is valuable. They pay maybe 10, 15 bucks for it and then it never sells and they think that this whole thing doesn't work. It's not about what you think is expensive or valuable, but it's what buyers are actively searching for and paying for. What I want you to do is to ask two simple questions. First up, are similar items selling consistently? Consistently is the key there. Next, is there too much competition? If the answer is yes to that, then it's probably too crowded and not worth getting the item listed. And do not forget this part. Your sale price, what the item sells for, is not your take-home profit. Your real profit is the price of the item sold for, and then the cost of the item, the cost of goods. What you paid for seller fees, for shipping, for packaging materials, everything that went into getting that item out the door. For example, you could buy a jacket for $8 and sell it for $40. Your eBay fees are gonna be around $5, maybe a little bit for shipping supplies. We'll get into shipping here in a second, but your profit on that item is gonna be somewhere roughly around $20. And when you know those numbers, you stop guessing and you're able to start treating this like a real kind of mini business. And this is also why I created my Ultimate Reseller Starter Kit. Now I'm gonna walk you through all of the steps here. I'm not holding anything back, but if you'd like the convenience of a course and having everything all in one place, as well as the support, there's also an option for what I call the Starter Kit Plus, which includes the support of the Empowered Reseller, AKA my community and membership, so that you're never stuck, you always know exactly what to do, and you have the help there if you need it. The starter kit is linked below, as well as you'll see a QR code on your screen. Now, when it comes to photos, photos are actually the thing that sell your item before your title ever even gets read. The number one myth that people believe is that they need professional equipment. You don't. Now, I know that you see my setup behind me with the lighting kit and the mannequins, but I did start just super basic, and that's what I recommend for beginners. Your phone is plenty enough. A good window, good lighting, and a clean background, that's gonna get you 90–95% of the way there. And once you have money coming in, that's when I recommend upgrading. Some quick tips for you here as a beginner, and you probably don't have the setup like I have, is to simply hang your items on a hanger or to lay them flat against a white or a neutral background. And you're gonna wanna take about 8 to 10 photos per item, the front and the back, the tag, any kind of details, and of course, any flaws. You don't wanna hide those flaws, you wanna show them. And that can actually help you because it builds buyer trust and buyers know exactly what they're gonna get. Once you've got sales coming in, then that's going to be the time to invest in a ring light or soft boxes or a background or mannequins like I have. But never wait on the gear to start. I want you to start with what you have. Momentum will beat perfection every day. Now let's talk listings, because this is where your sale actually happens. And your listings are basically your storefront of advertising, hey, this is what I've got available. Most people just get their listings out there, out into the world, and they hope and pray. They hope for the best. But just getting a listing out there does not automatically mean that buyers are going to find the item and that a sale is going to come in. You have to have a good title. That's how your listing is going to get found. This is where keywords come in. These are the words that buyers are typing in, that they're searching for. For example, with this dress, it's going to be Eileen Fisher sleeveless racer back dress, mini stripe, login look, vacation. Use every character that eBay gives you. That's SEO gold, search engine optimization. That's how your listing shows up in search results and gets clicked in the first place. Your description also plays a role in SEO, and it does a lot to reassure buyers of the condition and the size and the fit. It's also a good place to mention your shipping speed, like shipping the same day or shipping next day. You want it to be super clean and conversational. Now, there can be a lot of time and thought that goes into getting your title and your description written, and a lot of resellers get hung up here. This is why I actually give my members access to a tool that I built that has my keyword system built in and is able to generate titles and descriptions in pretty much a click of a button, even for multiple items at once. Now, eBay gives sellers shortcuts that most beginners ignore. Things like being able to run sales or markdowns on slow movers, being able to put out volume discounts to encourage bundle buying, for example, 20% off when you buy 3 or more items, or even having coupon codes. Use 1 or 2 at a time, test them, and learn what works. You don't necessarily need to use these right from the beginning, but it's good to know that they're an option there for you once you're feeling more comfortable. So let's talk shipping, because this is the thing that scares most beginners, myself included. I remember being so scared of shipping and doing something wrong, but honestly, it's really simple once you've done it a few times. You're gonna buy labels directly on eBay. That's the cheapest place. They'll actually give you the label when you make your sale. You're gonna wanna choose calculated shipping when you go to list your item. And what this is gonna do is eBay will automatically calculate the shipping charge based on the buyer location. So you don't have to put too much thought into this yourself. You're also gonna wanna have shipping supplies on hand. For me as a clothing reseller, I pretty much exclusively ship in these poly mailers. They come in various sizes from real tiny to very big. For heavier items, you're gonna wanna use boxes, and I usually just save what I happen to get in the mail for my own purchases. A postage scale is also super handy, and you can pick up one of those on Amazon for usually under 20 bucks. Now, I happen to use my kitchen scale. It's what I have and it works, so I've just kind of stuck with that. You don't need to be super accurate here, usually knowing to within a quarter pound for items under a pound or to the closest pound for items over a pound is gonna get you close enough to be able to get the correct label. I'll have the resources that I use, those poly mailers, as well as the setup behind me linked below this video. Now, this is the part that nobody tells you. You don't make money from one lucky item. You make money from consistency. When you list consistently, say 3 to 5 items a day, eBay's going to reward that activity. You're gonna show up more in search results, you're gonna get more watchers, and you're gonna start to see your sales snowball. I remember having my first $700 day as a very part-time reseller, and that's when I realized it's not about luck. It's having those kinds of systems in place of just consistently listing day in and day out. Now, let me save you a lot of frustration, and I'm gonna show you some of the biggest traps that new resellers fall into and how to avoid them. First up, overpaying. always check sold comps first. This has to be the #1 mistake I see sellers make. Never guess the value, always look it up. Next, being inconsistent. Listing 20 things one day and nothing for weeks. That is a huge momentum killer. Being consistent day in and day out, week in and week out, that's where you're gonna start to see results. Another big mistake from beginners is only going after brands and forgetting about things like style and aesthetic and the quality of the materials, the construction, the fabrics that are involved. Those types of details will beat a logo almost every time. And this one kills me, is quitting too early. I see way too many people excited to get started. They get started and then they get frustrated, not because this doesn't work, but because they started the wrong way. And that's why you're here watching this video. And these types of mistakes, they aren't failures. They're lessons, but only if you keep going. The only ones who don't win are the ones who quit. Now you might be saying, what if I don't have any money for inventory? Start free. Sell your own items first from your house and then take those profits and reinvest them into your next items. You might also be wondering if eBay fees are too high. And let me explain this. You're not just paying for a platform, you're paying to be able to reach millions and millions of ready to buy customers. Try reaching that on your own site. You're not gonna do it. You might also be thinking, what if nothing sells? And it happens to pretty much everybody. I would recommend going in and changing things up, trying out better keywords for your item, re-looking at your pricing and the comparable sales to see if you're being unrealistic with what you're asking for. And then of course, making sure that you're listing consistently. This isn't just a one and done. You need to have consistent input into the system in order to get consistent output. And you start to learn patterns over time and figuring out what works and what doesn't. You might also be thinking, but I don't have a lot of time. Hey, I get it. As a mom of 4, there's not a lot of time in the day. And this does not have to take up all day, hours and hours. Start tiny with the time that you have. Even 10 minutes invested on a daily basis, you're gonna start seeing results off of that. And a little daily momentum, you're gonna see that start to compound over time. You're gonna see it compounding massively over 90 days, over 6 months, over 12 months of doing this. Now, I know right now this might feel like a lot, and maybe you're thinking, I'm not an entrepreneur, I just wanna make a little extra money. And that's exactly how I felt too. But here's what happens when you get started. You sell that first item, you get excited, and you sell another and then another, and those notifications, you made a sale, those start coming in and they're addictive in the best way possible. Before you know it, you're making an extra $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month and being able to pay off a credit card or covering rent or creating the freedom that you didn't have before. For me, this has allowed me to be able to stay home with my kids, to be able to pay off debt and to build something that fits around life, not the other way around. You don't have to have this all figured out. You just have to start. And now that you know how to get started, the next step is learning how to spot profitable items instantly. Just click or tap the screen and I'll walk you through exactly what to look for when sourcing, even in overpriced thrift stores. Just click or tap and I'll see you there.